Thank you. Good morning. I am so excited to be here with you guys. I'm so honored. Like Pastor Josh said, my name is Kloey Monthie, and I do live here in Republic. I'm actually a freshman at the Republic High School, and I am the newly crowned Princess of America National Ambassador. And in a little bit, I'll explain to you what that title means, but I first want to share with you what that title represents to me, and it's 3 words: faith, surrender, and impact. So I started competing in pageants when I was 6 years old, and it was quite a shock to my family because I dealt with a lot of anxiety. Actually, right before my very first pageant interview, I had a huge meltdown. But that was probably one of the most important moments of my life because my mom looked me in the eyes and she said, "Jesus is with you. We finish what we start, so go in there and do your best. And if you come out and you never want to do this again, that's completely fine. But we're finishing what we started." So I trusted what she said, and that led me to go on and win the Miss Missouri Princess title at just 6 years old. So from that moment, it was just kind of like building blocks. After I was crowned, I continued my journey onto Hollywood, California, and I was competing for the Princess National title. And aside from the main competitions, there was also an acting competition, which at this point, I had never done that before. But I gained some confidence, and most importantly, I knew that Jesus was with me. So I took a leap of faith, and I trusted that God was by my side, and he then led me to win the National Actress title, again, at just 6 years old. From there, life just kind of started happening. Doors were opening for me that I never thought would actually open. But what was interesting was every time I stepped through a door, I was faced with fear. But those moments of fear were also moments for me to increase in my faith and for me to trust God even more. So just like that very first time at my first pageant, I was overwhelmed with fear as I was getting accepted into an acting program. But I knew God was with me, and I knew that this was his plan for my life. So I knew that I needed to do this and trust him in the process. And just by giving all control to God, he then led me to become the first overall female child performer to win top honors in this national program in all areas, which was acting, dancing, and modeling. I was the recipient of the second highest amount of agent callbacks in this program's history. I immediately came home and signed with a local agency, started booking some amazing opportunities with Hallmark and other voiceover jobs. And then there was one day that my mom received a message from a dear friend of ours, and she recommended that I audition for a faith-based film. But believe it or not, I almost did an audition. Just like that very first time at my first pageant, or the first time I had ever stepped foot at this acting program, I encountered an intense amount of fear, and it couldn't have been happening at a worse time. I was literally about to walk out the door and head to this audition, and I just started to sob. I didn't want to go. I wanted to back out. But just like we did in every situation like this, my mom and I, we just stopped, and we prayed. I took God with me into that audition, and as a result, Chase was filmed a few months after that day, and I had the incredible honor of playing the lead role. Now, at this point, the only logical next step for me was to go on to Hollywood. At the end of my 5th grade year, we took off for LA, and I could not have been more excited. Every meeting with every agent or manager was amazing, and my next step was right in front of me. Actually, leading up to that trip, we were researching homeschooling options for me. I was set. I was ready to go. But I came home from that trip, and I went from feeling like the next Disney star to feeling like a door just slammed in my face. And I immediately knew I had to start praying. Because of that prayer and just trusting God in the process, I learned so much through those experiences by giving it all to him, getting rid of all of my control and just giving it to God. But in that moment specifically, I learned a new word, and it revealed itself to me in a big way. And that word was surrender. All the opportunities were right in front of me, but I chose to surrender to the one who already had my plans out and ready for me. It was not easy watching fellow actors and friends of mine signing with LA agents. It was not easy for me turning down those opportunities to live out my dream in Hollywood. But I surrendered completely so that I could live out God's will for my life. And that fall, I started 6th grade in public school at the Republic Middle School instead of homeschooling. Now, if you notice, there's a little bit of a pattern here. These tests and these trials that I've gone through, where I've had to just stop and trust God and surrender all the plans I had for myself, they've always led me to an even greater outcome than I could have ever imagined as a part of God's plan for me. As a result of sticking with public school and not going off to LA, God used my brother and I, and he opened our eyes to notice that there were various students in our school who were being bullied. So we did a little investigating on these situations. We connected some dots. And we realized that these students who were being made fun of were a part of our school's Tiger Toast food program. These kids were being made fun of for something they had no control over. They were being bullied for being hungry. So Josiah and I immediately took action, and we created a group called SPARK, which stands for Students Performing Acts of Respect and Kindness. We gathered together some students to write encouraging notes to put in Ziploc bags with a couple pieces of candy, and we called these encouragement bags. We asked the middle school nurse if she would pass out these encouragement bags as well as the food bags, so that when these students came to get their food, they had something special waiting just for them that told them that they are loved and supported by other people in their community. Now, what went from a few encouragement bags made at the middle school is now turned into over 12,000 encouragement bags distributed all through the entire schools of Republic. Encouragement bags have been sent out to foster kids and law enforcement here in Republic. Over 12,000 encouragement bags have been sent out, which means over 12,000 smiles have been put on people's faces, 12,000 moments of people being told that they are so loved when they needed to hear that most. Looking back, I clearly see why I am where I am today. I surrendered my plans. I surrendered everything that I had for myself for God's plans. In Jeremiah 29:11, God says, I know your plans, and I know what I'm doing. I trust that. I surrender to that. I believe that God has a great big plan for my life, and he's going to use all of my experiences to make a huge impact. So I now want to explain and share with you what my title means. So through the years, I've been involved in pageants, and I always had this big goal that I wanted to be a national title holder. So I decided that I was going to compete for the Teen Miss Missouri title, and I actually got crowned that title last spring. I was so honored and so excited to have that title. But as Nationals Week approached, I knew in my heart that by the end of the week, it was my time to step back from pageantry after competing for 8 years. I really wanted to focus more on Spark, and I wanted to focus more on high school and my other goals that I had for myself. So knowing that it was one of my last times competing on stage for a while, I secretly still had that goal of wanting to be that national queen. And I got to that moment. I was in the final two for the Teen Miss title with another friend that I met during that week. And they called my name as first runner-up. Disappointed? Maybe a little. But I was so happy for the girl that won, and I knew that there was another title left, and it was called the Ambassador title. Now, this title encompassed all overall scores, including a personal interview with the judges about your community impact, which is one of my biggest passions. This title was given out to the highest scoring contestant in the senior division. Now, what you may not know about the senior division is it consisted of girls ages 14 to 24. So I was basically the teen baby competing against these experienced and accomplished college women. It was kind of shocking for me, honestly. But they started calling out the top 5, and as expected, it was all college women. Until they called my name, I was in disbelief. I mean, it was me and then these 4 very successful college women. But then the runners-up were starting to be called. 4th runner-up, 3rd runner-up, 2nd runner-up, they were all called. And my name wasn't called yet. I was still standing there, and I was yet again in the final 2. Despite being the youngest, literally the youngest contestant competing for this title, I was then crowned the Princess of America National Ambassador. So knowing that it was my last pageant I was competing at for a while, and I had this huge goal of wanting to be a national title holder, it was in God's plan for me that I was going to be achieving that goal. And what's even more special is that this title has a huge emphasis on community impact, which again is my biggest passion. Coincidence? Absolutely not. This title represents faith, surrender, and impact. So I want to leave you with this. This title is not my source of joy. My joy comes from the Lord. And it is not always easy, and I am a true testament to that. But I have the most joy when I give God control and when I have faith in his plans, because I know he will be faithful when he leads me where he wants me to go. And I know he will be faithful when he leads me to be the world changer he created me to be. Thank you.